Entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Let's keep this going. More fantasy football talk. We got more news than we can deal with. Big name players getting hurt or holding out or whatever it might be. If you out there want to find my rankings, which why would you? Because they're probably terrible. But I have the top 175, each of the positions in tiers up on dkplaybook.com right now. You go find it up there. You search like Pat Mayo rankings. Boom. They're right there. You should probably block that stuff though. But the big thing is I'm updating them still once a week right now. It'll be twice a week in the not too soon future because I do advocate. I know there's a lot of people doing drafts out there, but you should really hold off as long as possible. That's why I can milk like 3 shows a week talking about injury news. Stuff changes all the time. If you want to get into a draw for 20 DK bucks, which would cover your entry to the week 1 Millionaire Maker, there are 3 ways to do so. Number 1, smash the like button for the episode. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and tell me who your number 1 overall running back is for PPR formats this season. Way number 2, subscribe, download, listen. You don't really need to listen. Subscribing and downloading is the important part to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast review. 5 stars. Leave your DraftKings handle, something you enjoy about the show. Way number 3, follow me at the PME on Instagram. I give a heart to one of them football photos that go up there. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Those are the 3 ways you can get into the draw for 20 DK dollars. Winners announced on Monday's show. Joining me on the line, one of the best minds in the game. He's from DK Live and EstablishTheRun.com, brand new site, which Adam Levitan, I think I'm going to have to pay for. I was like, can you comp me? You're like, no pay. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm going to pay.
By the way, now that you're a big PGA Tour hotshot, what are you doing out here doing football rankings? I mean, isn't that a colossal misappropriation of your very precious golf mind?
Yeah, but the whole thing is, if you can really get people, cast a wide net out there. You give out bad golf picks, you give out bad football picks. It just gives more people more diversity. It's like, hey, maybe he's not so bad at golf, or maybe he's not so bad at football. And then they'll find out the hard way.
No, it's exciting, man. Congratulations on the PGA Tour stuff. It's awesome. I love I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but leagues investing in fantasy and realizing that the most engaged audience is indeed the fantasy and gambling community is so good. So yeah, get out there on the PGAtour.com. Check out Pat's stuff.
Oh, well, thank you for the plug for me. I was at the media tent last week, and like half the people were like super gung-ho, being like, hey, love the show, love you and Feinberg. And then like anyone over the age of 30 is like, what is a DraftKings exactly?
Well, I'm over 30, first of all. Second of all, yeah, I know, but like the whole generational thing is going to just keep getting further and further away from the older generation. I mean, everybody now is growing up. All the kids now are growing up with fantasy and with mobile and with technology. It's like, it's just such a smash that it's going to continue to grow. It's almost impossible for it not to.
Yeah, hopefully the tech can mesh together at some point. Tell everyone what's up with EstablishTheRun.com. I know Silva's rankings are over there. I assume his matchup preview column, which I need to read, is going to be up there. And is Pat Thorman going to have his pace stats as well?
Yeah. All that stuff will be up there. Josh Herzmeyer's buy low. But really, I mean, there's a ton of stuff on there. You can go to EstablishTheRun.com and see everything that we have and we're going to have. But really, the goal is just simple. Just give people what we think is the best information in football. And then whatever they want to do with it. You want to play DFS. You want to play season-long fantasy. You want to play dynasty. You want to bet props. You want to bet lines. You want to bet totals. Whatever you want to do with information, that's up to you. But we're putting out there what we consider to be the best information. We're not going the route that Mayo goes, where he says his information is actually the worst. We know he's joking. We're actually going to go in and say that we think our information is the best.
Oh, see, I believe I have very good information. It's just my practical use of said information is just very, very poor. So other people seem to do fine with it. Me, I can't catch a break over here. Let's talk. Oh, you're on the Schefter's podcast. Is that the biggest thing you've ever done?
I mean, it's crazy, man. Schefter is a huge fantasy player and he plays on DK a lot too. And he plays very small stakes. He just loves the game. There was an article in the Washington Post back in 2016 about how he plays NBA DFS, and that made him want to like take a turn as a sideline reporter in the NBA, which he got to do. He also plays preseason DFS, the great game of preseason DFS. I think he actually might play some golf DFS too. He just loves fantasy. So know him a little bit through that. And yeah, he knows Evan also. And he was, just out of the blue, just asked him to come on his pod. And yeah, obviously the dude's got like 4 million followers on Twitter or something. I mean, it's almost makes no sense. So yeah, it was pretty cool for sure.
All right, yeah, congratulations on that. Someday I'll be asked to be on a big podcast, but I'll be like, no, can't do it. Got my own to record. Can't. That's my statement right now of when the people do not approach me to be on there. I'm like, well, I can't do it anyway. I'm sorry. Let's talk football though, because there's the shit ton of news to go through here. Andrew Luck, he's got like bone problems now. Apparently, it's all like hearsay from Jim Irsay. Like, are you worried about Andrew Luck at this point?
Not so much. I mean, they called it a calf injury. Now they're saying there's some bone issue. Maybe there's an ankle issue. They have not been forthcoming whatsoever. That said, we've seen Andrew Luck play through injury before and play well through injury before. Had a really good year. I believe it was with a torn labrum before, which is really hard to do. So no, I'm not worried about Andrew Luck yet. I think you can make a case to maybe drop him 1 or 2 spots in the quarterback rankings. Maybe you could drop him below Baker Mayfield. Maybe you could drop him below Aaron Rodgers, but I wouldn't give him a big cut on his ranking.
It's funny. That's exactly what I did in my updated rankings. I had it Mahomes, Luck, Watson, Rodgers. It's now Mahomes, Watson, Rodgers as a part of tier 1. I bumped Andrew Luck down to tier 2 with Baker Mayfield. So you and I are at least on the same page. It turns out your rankings suck too, so that's not good if they're matching up with mine. But I mean, the last time that we heard like injury mystery around Andrew Luck, he missed the entire year. So that was not great. So do we worry about, let's say, even if he's, I don't know, 85%, 80, does that hurt everyone else down the line? Like, does that take away from T.Y. Hilton? We already know my new favorite French receiver, Paris Campbell, is already dinged up. He says, hey, I am on the France plan here. I cannot play the 16 week. I get 8-week vacation. I cannot do this. But everyone else out there, like, it's, I don't know. I feel like there's a trickle-down effect to this if he's actually banged up.
All right, of course. Of course there would be if he was really only 80 or 85%. I think that there would be a trickle-down effect. I just don't think that's a concern yet. It's still only August 13th. You know, like we're living and dying with every piece of news here. There's not going to be any games still for like 3.5 more weeks. So I get that people are freaking out. I'm not freaking out yet on Andrew Luck. And just as, on their weapons as a whole, I mean, they're so loaded. I mean, Paris Campbell, Devin Funchess, T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron, Marlon Mack, Naheem Hines, they are absolutely stacked. And I think that projecting target share there is going to be a bit of a process each week outside of T.Y. Hilton because we're not exactly sure.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even bring up my favorite, like, super athlete, Mo Alley-Cox, or the former Superman from Adventures from Superman, Dean Cain, or Dion Cain, or the hell that guy's name is. There's just a lot of guys to go around. So if you're not panicking about all this injury news that's going to come out and, like, try to react within 20 minutes of this news dropping, is there any injury news or even some of the holdout news, maybe it's the Zeke or Gordon stuff that you've heard so far that actually does worry you?
Yeah. I think Melvin Gordon is a major threat to hold out. I mean, he didn't get the memo that running backs have no leverage in this league, particularly when they have such good backups. I mean, Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, you can make a case are 2 of the best backup situations in the league for the Chargers. So yeah, I think Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson would step in and the Chargers wouldn't miss a beat. They'd be crazy to pay him. I don't think the Chargers are particularly sharp, so maybe they think that they need to pay him. But still, like, I don't see them coming to terms if Melvin Gordon's really going to be like, I want Todd Gurley money, which obviously proved to be a huge mistake also. So yeah, I think that Melvin Gordon's a serious threat to hold out. I know DraftKings adjusted their prices. Austin Eckler is $5,500 in week 1, which I still think would be playable. It's certainly no absolute steal, but would be playable. But it's not like they left him at $3,500 or $4K where he'd just be like an absolute smash.
What does it do to these 3 guys in season-long drafts if you're entering it? We still don't have any clarity on the Gordon situation. Like, when can you feasibly take Melvin Gordon? Like, do you wait and just say, like, hey, he's a guy I don't want, but if he falls to X round, I would take him then and just hope he's back by week 2?
Yeah, I've seen him go in the 3rd round, and I think that's fair. I just think that Austin Eckler was going to have a role regardless of what happens. You know, even if Melvin Gordon never held out and played this whole camp, I think they wanted to get Austin Eckler 8-9 touches a game anyways. They were real hesitant to push Melvin Gordon over 20 carries per game last year. I actually don't think that they did it once, and then he broke down anyways in terms of injuries. So, yeah, I had concerns about Melvin Gordon anyways, so I'll probably let somebody else take him at this point. And we've seen guys come in off holdouts before and be not ready, pull a hamstring, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the safest situation.
Yeah, when I talked to Dr. Jesse Morris last week, I had him on the show. I think everyone should go check that out if you're interested in some of the mechanics behind re-aggravating injuries, which injuries matter, the timeline for injuries. It really informed me, and I barely, I'm like a brick. I can't absorb anything. But that stuff really did stick with me. And he did mention like a lot of these holdout guys are so susceptible to be injured right off the hop just because they don't have the full training camp. They're not stretching properly. They're not getting into game shape and then being forced into game shape right away. So I originally had Melvin Gordon at the top of tier 3 of my running backs. But like, would you rather draft in a PPR setting Melvin Gordon or Josh Jacobs?
Right now, Josh Jacobs for me. And I don't even love Josh Jacobs that much, but yeah, Josh Jacobs for me.
Would you go Kerryon Johnson or Melvin Gordon?
Oh, come on, dude. Kerryon is going to absolutely smash. I mean, with Theo Riddick gone, Kerryon Johnson is going to push over 60 receptions for sure. And he's so efficient in the run game. Obviously, only Aaron Jones averaged more yards per carry last year than Kerryon Johnson. And they're firmly on team established the run there in Detroit. I think it sets up really well for Kerryon. It's a no-brainer.
All right, the guy you just talked about, Melvin Gordon or Aaron Jones?
I really like Aaron Jones. I would take Aaron Jones over Melvin Gordon. Also, Aaron Jones came off the hamstring injury, went right back in with the starters. And I think it's not just coach speak that the Packers are going to throw at a higher rate to their running backs this year. They did it at a really low rate under Mike McCarthy. I think in the new scheme, throwing to their running backs on early downs is extremely efficient. I think the new Packers regime under Matt LaFleur realizes that. And I do also think that this new regime realizes that Aaron Jones is just so much far and away better than Jamal Williams or Dexter Williams, whoever else they want to put out there.
All right, so Melvin Gordon or Todd Gurley?
I would go Gurley here because I think that Gurley is actually going to play. He's just going to be limited. Like, I think Gurley's going to be fine, and when he's out there, he'll look good. But I think they're going to try to hold him to 16, 17 touches a game. I would not project Melvin Gordon for that much more than that. Anyways, even if Melvin Gordon wasn't holding out. So yeah, I think Todd Gurley at this point is okay. You know, if we knew about every running back in the league who had arthritis, like that'd be every running back, you know? So I'm concerned about Todd Gurley, but not to the point where I wouldn't take him in like the early 3rd round, late 2nd.
Yeah, early 3rd round, late 2nd, but like where are you still seeing him go in drafts at this point?
Yeah, I've seen him go late 2nd, early 3rd. Have you seen him go higher? Is that what you're insinuating?
Yeah, like I still see like there's people out there who have like Todd Gurley's fine. He's the number 1 player in fantasy. I'll take him, you know, at pick number 12 or at the beginning of the 2nd round. That just seems unnecessarily risky.
Yeah, I think in the 1st round, I'm really looking to avoid risk a lot. I mean, all these guys, assuming they all play 16 games, a lot of these guys, you know, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys are going to end up somewhat similar in fantasy points per game, or at least they project to, you know. So taking a guy who has a really bad floor, i.e. knee acts up, he's out 4 games. And obviously injuries are going to happen, but this is one that you could foresee coming in the preseason. That wouldn't be a 1st round pick for me.
Yeah, it's in golf lingo. It's like when we talk about like putting, whoever putts the best is going to win. It's just impossible to predict putting. The same thing almost comes up with injuries. You can have a clue about some guys may re-aggravate this. They come into the season with this. They're injury prone. But if that guy's not playing 4 games, well, you can just write that one down. That's an easy one. You don't have to figure that part out. So you can adjust with it that way. Would you go Melvin Gordon or Damian Williams?
Oh man, I'm looking every day for news on Damian Williams. You know, he had what looked like a pretty bad hamstring pull. He said it wasn't that bad, but as he's come back from this hamstring pull, he's really rotated with Carlos Hyde, with Darwin Thompson, with Darrell Williams, and they continue to say that Damian Williams is their starter. But there's also something to be said for training your body and being ready to touch the ball 250, 300 times in a season. I'm not sure Damian Williams is necessarily ready for that. So I've gone a little bit south on Damian Williams lately, and maybe it's just kind of a recency reaction to this little hamstring pull that he had. We'll see what happens because the Chiefs do like to play their starters in the preseason. I'll be very curious how much Damian Williams plays with the Patrick Mahomes group in weeks 2 and 3.
If it was a draft as of today, before you had any more information of the 4 Chiefs running backs and like where they're currently going, obviously Williams is going the highest, Hyde is going in the 2nd, and then the other 2 guys are free at this point. Like if you had to take value on those guys, which one do you think you would take?
Yeah, I've seen Carlos Hyde go as late as like the 10th round. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, I don't think Carlos Hyde is very good, but coaches like to play him because he's, I guess, reliable. And he's been there and he's done it, and the coaches seem to like that. So yeah, I think from that perspective, Carlos Hyde in like the 9th or 10th is fine by me.
All right, Melvin Gordon or Marlon Mack?
I would go Melvin Gordon here. I do like Marlon Mack. The concern for me with Marlon Mack is, let's say that for whatever reason, the Colts season goes sideways. You are looking at Marlon Mack, and he can catch passes. They just have not used him in this role. Anytime they get into a passing situation, 3rd down, 2 minute, 4 minute, they've immediately put in Nyheim Hines, and that always scares me. I mean, full PPR. I mean, anytime I play on DK, it's like, God, I can't face the game script going sideways and me watching Nyheim Hines out there when I played Marlon Mack. So I'm extremely adamant that my running backs need to catch passes, and not just catch passes, but be involved in 2 and 4 minute drill. There's just so many fantasy points that are racked up in those times that guys like Marlon Mack and Derrick Henry probably scare me a little bit more than most people.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry is basically on my do not draft list based on where he's going right now, just because I can't handle that. If he doesn't break an 80-yard run in the second quarter, like, he might not see the field. I've actually been taking Dion Lewis wherever I can towards the end. I mean, we have a new regime, and it was basically 4 games at the end of Matt LaFleur when, hey, Derrick Henry's going to get 30 carries a game. What if the Titans aren't good? Then Dion Lewis is always going to be on the field, isn't he?
Yeah, and I'd be surprised that the Titans were good. And Marcus Mariota is just like so unaggressive. It's also like hard for them to blow teams out, so it's hard to get into a situation where it's like, oh yeah, this is, they're up 21-3 at halftime. This is Derrick Henry total smash. So yeah, I would agree with you.
So I've been, I wouldn't say down on David Montgomery, but I feel like I'm a bit lower than like the hype train that's building for him. I have him on a tier with like Devonta Freeman, James White, and Leonard Fournette. Like, those 4 guys I think are just a step back from the guys just above them that we just kind of ran through, and then way above the Tevin Coleman, Chris Carson. Maybe Tevin Coleman and Chris Carson should be a part of that tier rather than the Derrick Henrys and Sony Michel's, Phillip Lindsay, and Kenyon Drakes of the world, who we'll talk about here in a second because he's got banged up. But do you have like good feelings about David Montgomery? Because he's someone who, you mentioned like early 3rd round for Todd Gurley. That's like where David Montgomery is going now. Is
it really? That's crazy. No, I prefer Devonta Freeman. I prefer Leonard Fournette. But I mean, yeah, David Montgomery. Look, I mean, Matt Nagy for each game schemes very specifically. If he thinks it's going to be a good spot for Tariq Cohen to exploit mismatches against linebackers, that's what he's going to do. If he thinks it's going to be a good spot for David Montgomery to play in the screen game or run between the tackles, that's what he's going to do. Predicting what Matt Nagy is going to do on a week-to-week basis is not really how I would want to invest a 3rd-round pick. That said, I think you can project David Montgomery for somewhere around 200, 220 touches. I think that's very fair. I think Mike Davis is a little better than people think. I think that he'll get somewhere between 60 and 70 touches this season, assuming all these guys stay healthy. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not falling over myself to get David Montgomery. I think Devonta Freeman and Leonard Fournette have higher ceilings.
So the win total shows that I'm doing with Feinberg and Cust are coming out soon. Not great on info, high on laughs, and terrible picks also. I mean, that's the only reason I can have Cust back on over and over. It just makes me look like okay by comparison. But one of the things that I'm looking at right now is like the Bears 9.5 win total. I don't think they'll be good, and they could definitely beat that win total. It just seemed like everything broke right for them last year. Like, Trubisky wasn't good, yet that didn't seem to matter. The defense was excellent, but they remained healthy the entire season, and they generated like, plus 13 in the turnover department? Like, that's probably not going to happen again. It just seems like if bad luck strikes them at all, their whole team can be thrown out of whack.
And went from one of the softest schedules to one of the hardest schedules. And also, turnovers are one of the hardest stats year over year. They're one of the least sticky stats year over year. They're just not going to have the same turnover rate as you mentioned that they did last year. So yeah, I think the Bears are a nice fade at 9.5. Those win totals have moved so much. I'd be surprised if the sharp community didn't already get to that one and kind of push the juice onto the under.
Yeah, it is. It's minus 140 right now for the minus 9.5. So you have to, if people don't know, you have to lay $140 to win 100. I'll see if I can find it 9 somewhere. That's probably going to end up being even money. But that actually kind of leads me to, because of all this, like David Montgomery's getting all the hype. If they're not constantly playing from in front, then maybe he doesn't see, the Jordan Howard, because everyone's just saying, well, Jordan Howard got almost 300 touches last year. That's just going to easily be David Montgomery's. Well, they were winning all the time last year, up in these games and able to run the ball. Let's say they fall behind in some of these games. Doesn't that feel like Allen Robinson all of a sudden is going at a great value?
Allen Robinson's one of our favorite picks. I know Evan's been high on him. I mean, Allen Robinson is a truly unique talent. I don't say that just as a fellow Penn State alum as Allen Robinson. I mean, he is an awesome, awesome player. Now 2 years removed from the ACL, now in a situation where, like you said, I expect him to be trailing more. Now in a situation where I think Mitch Trubisky can take a leap forward in year 3. And yeah, you can get Allen Robinson in like the 6th or 7th round of season long. And I think that's pretty good value on a guy with his ability and situation.
Like on the flip side to that, like we saw Allen Robinson catch all those touchdowns with Blake Bortles at quarterback. I've been I wouldn't say pounding this drum, but I find it very intriguing that simply removing Blake Bortles from the Jacksonville offense and inserting league average quarterback Big Dick Nick Foles under center, shouldn't that make them like a way better offense just by replacement value?
By the way, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I'm not an Eagles fan or anything, but I was out on Broad Street just, trying to go there for the laughs. And I had actually bet the Patriots. So I lost a bunch of money. I was a little bit depressed, but then I get out on Broad Street and everybody's just chanting, Big Dick Nick, Big Dick Nick, Big Dick Nick. And, so it was all basically a wash. Lost some money, but got to chant Big Dick Nick with a bunch of other dudes. Anyways, to your point, yeah.
I say that sounds like the worst fucking porn ever, man.
To your point, I think that Nick Foles is an upgrade. The year that he was so bad that kind of ruined his reputation was with Jeff Fisher. And I think anybody who plays with Jeff Fisher can get ruined pretty quickly. So yeah, I think there's a chance that Big Dick Nick will indeed be a pretty good improvement over Blake Bortles. That would obviously be great news for Leonard Fournette, Leonard Fournette to me has like one of the widest ranges of outcomes. He could literally be the running back one this year, and he could also just completely fall off the map once again, depending on how it goes. I'm not sure exactly where his head's at, but people have seemed to given up on Leonard Fournette. I have not, and if he does end up being really good again, Big Dick Nick will have a big say in that.
Well, even some of the receivers, like, I know you love D.D. Westbrook just by being team preseason. I love D.D. Westbrook. It's probably because his name is D.D. And that's about the extent that I really get into here. But I just think he's a supremely talented player. And I'm just trying to figure out who benefits from Bortles being gone and just an increase in efficiency. Or maybe he doesn't throw a pick every 4 passes and they can extend some drives. I'm thinking D.D. is the biggest benefactor, but I've been reading that Jeff Swaim is going to be the starting tight end. And that makes a lot of sense to me as a guy who's like undrafted.
Yeah, God, I wouldn't want to go that deep. And what are you playing, like a 3 tight end league or something like that?
I'm thinking like week 1 on DK against the Chiefs, $2,500.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Now that's something that we can think about. And I think game stacks, I don't know if you noticed, but the highest total in week 1 is actually that Chiefs Jaguars game up at 52 points. People are going to want to play Chiefs. Obviously, they're not going to know who to bring it back with. I think Dede, Swaim, and Lenny are all reasonable candidates. You mentioned Dede, like Marquise Lee is not going to be back for week 1 for whatever reason. Keelan Cole has gone south. They're down to like DJ Chark and Chris Conley at wide receiver. Like that is total dust to me. I think Dede should have a really big target share.
Yeah. So I would you think about like, 'cause I know you did a draft last night. You guys picked from the 4 hole. Are you trying to get one of the first 4 picks? Like, who did you actually let's talk about Zeke, because Romo says it's now Zeke's going to be a coin flip in order to play in week 1. I don't know if he actually has any insight or not, but let's say you do your draft last night. You're at pick 4. I assume the first 3 picks were some combination of McCaffrey, Kamara, and Barkley. Did Zeke go number 4?
We were 4th and we debated for a little bit. We actually debated this on air between Zeke and David Johnson. And I estimated that Zeke would report for week 1 between 80 and 85% of the time. And given that, I thought that it was not enough. Like that 15% gap is not enough to take a Zeke over David Johnson. So we went ahead and took David Johnson. I still think Zeke is really likely to come to terms with Dallas, but even that 10 to 15%, 15 to 20% of the time, I think is enough to take DJ over Zeke.
So
Zeke went their pick right after us, I will say.
Okay, so the first 5 picks were all running backs. It kind of draws me back to that. We just talked about Dede. We like Dede. We both like Allen Robinson. Like, how often are you seeing people go running back, or running back, Kelsey, running back to start their drafts?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like 0 running back has kind of gotten into people's heads a lot. The second round is pretty tight end and wide receiver heavy, it seems a lot. I like that tier that we've been talking about, the carry on Aaron Jones, Devontae Freeman, Lenny Fournette. I like that tier of running back in the 3rd round there. So that's interesting. I think Evan prefers pass catchers in like rounds 2 through 4 and then start hammering running back after that. But yeah, I think that you're better off. If I could pick somewhere to draft, I would probably want to pick in the first 3 picks.
Yeah, you just get one of those safe 3 guys and move on
Yep.
from there. Because like your options at the back end of the second round, early third, like you talked about Gurley's dropping into the third. Like how pissed really would you be if you had a Christian McCaffrey, I don't know, Mike Evans, Todd Gurley start? It sounds pretty good on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly big name. I mean, anytime you get Todd Gurley in the third, you're like, your names are going to look good. We'll see how it actually ends up. But yeah, your names are going to look good.
Kenyon Drake left practice with an undisclosed injury right before we came on air, so I don't have anything more than that. But how do you like? I remember there was a report that said like it's going to be like a 45, 45, 15, whatever the rest of the percentage is split between the running backs. Between it's like Drake, Ballage, and then someone else is going to come in and do some damage as well. Do you see Ballage ending up winning this job, or is Kenyon Drake just penciled into his 45 snap share a week, and that's just what it's going to be for the entire season?
I would say that in the first preseason game, the Ryan Fitzpatrick group was the starters group, and Kenyon Drake started. Kenyon Drake was in on 9 of 13 snaps with the Ryan Fitzpatrick group. It looked like he was still in control of this backfield, but based on all the beat writer reports, yeah, Kalen Ballage is pushing him a lot. I think Kenyon Drake is too good to not get at least 50% of the touches in this backfield, and he's better in the pass game than Ballage too. And obviously, with the Dolphins, I don't want to say tanking, but they are not going to put the best product on the field this year in an effort to presumably secure the quarterback from Alabama or the quarterback from Clemson, et cetera, one day. So I think they'll be trailing a lot, and that fits well with what Kenyon Drake does well.
Antonio Brown has re-reported to Raiders camp. Apparently everything is all fine. I'm pretty convinced that he's like a secret producer on Hard Knocks, and this is just generating more interest. Therefore, he aligns his dollars even more. I don't know. He has this foot problem. I don't know what helmet he's going to use. Originally, I had him over Juju. I dropped him back underneath Juju, and I'm thinking about even dropping him down to like that next tier below with the Evans and the T.Y. Hiltons and the Keenan Allens of the world. That I just don't know if I trust him to be stable.
I think he's like bipolar or like schizophrenic or has like some like mental illness. Like people, I don't know what's going on. Like it's really, really weird, man. I would not take Antonio Brown at all. I think if this goes bad with Derek Carr, which it very could go bad with the Raiders and Derek Carr, this dude could just like fly off a wall. And also we saw some diminishing of his skills, I think, in Pittsburgh. He's also going at an old age from a really good offensive situation and a good quarterback and a good offensive line and a very pass heavy scheme to something that might be the exact opposite in Oakland. So yeah, I would not take Antonio Brown. Like I would let him just keep going by, and I'll take Chris Godwin in the 4th or whatever, and I'm totally fine with that.
Christian McCaffrey reports out of Carolina are that the coaches are looking for a backup running back to be the goal line back and spell Christian McCaffrey.
Stop.
And we didn't believe
this is not news. This is not news.
We didn't believe them last year. I mean, some people did, but a lot of people didn't believe the coaching staff last year when they came out and said, you know what? Christian McCaffrey's going to touch the ball 30 times a game. Like, yeah, good luck with that. And that's exactly what happened. So, like, should we put any stock into this?
This is one national reporter, not a Panthers reporter, one national reporter. This is how news gets going in the fantasy world now. One national reporter, not a Panthers reporter who's there every day. One national reporter goes to Panthers camp for the day, talks to somebody off the record. We don't have any names. We don't have Ron Rivera's name on it. Says that, yeah, they'd like to take a little bit of the load off and maybe take him out at the goal line, short yardage every now and then. Fails to mention that their backups are total dust. Cameron Artis-Payne, Elijah Holyfield, son of a Vander. These guys can't play. Fails to mention that they did not, at any point last year, even like week 16 when the Panthers were done, they still wanted to have Christian McCaffrey out there for 20 touches. I didn't take that report, a quote unquote report, for anything. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be totally fine at the goal line. I would not quantify that as news, Pat.
Okay. If you had the number 1 pick, who would you take?
Yeah, we have Christian McCaffrey first. I think that the ability to play in the pass game like the way he does, and obviously a better offensive environment than what we expect out of Eli Manning, would give him the edge over Saquon Barkley. And then Alvin Kamara, I mean, I don't expect Alvin Kamara's touches to get a bump just because Mark Ingram is gone. Alvin Kamara is still going to be in that 16 to 18 touch range, and Latavius Murray is going to get the rest. So Christian McCaffrey for me.
A lot of buzz was made about Duke Johnson getting traded, and all of a sudden, hey, Nick Chubb might like backdoor his way into 40 catches now because he's just going to be on the field. And I don't necessarily think that's not the case, but Dontrell Hilliard looks like he's going to step into that role. Do you envision that happening? Because they're pretty convinced that Chubb does the one thing that he does well, and will continue to let him do that and give him some spells. But if we get into a situation where Chubb is on the field for like 80% of the snaps, 75% of the snaps, it does feel like through osmosis, he should get like 3-4 checkdowns a game.
I think Nick Chubb now should go in the first round of fantasy drafts. I mean, this offense is going to be extremely difficult to stop, and Nick Chubb is so talented and efficient and breaking tackles and doing everything well. I saw him catch a nice screen pass in the first preseason game, which I thought was encouraging. Dontrell Hilliard did come in. They ran the 2-minute drill for their entire first preseason game. Dontrell Hilliard came in for a few snaps and made some nice catches. But yeah, I don't think Nick Chubb is incapable in the pass game. And obviously, Dontrell Hilliard, I think while he's a good player, he's a downgrade from Duke Johnson. So you can make a pretty good case now that Nick Chubb should be a first-round pick.
Darius Guice has not yet been cleared to play in games. He can be out there practicing a little bit, but does this mean we're just too down on Adrian Peterson? We should be drafting him, or is Washington just a situation where very rarely do you encounter this, but just don't have any of their players?
On Adrian Peterson, you're coming to me with a guy who does not play in the pass game, and is like 35 years old. These are like two of my biggest strikes possible, and like allegedly beats children. Like these are like three of the biggest strikes for me on Adrian Peterson. So no, I'm off Adrian Peterson. I don't know, man. I think that the Redskins are just so poorly managed. I actually grew up a quote unquote Redskins fan in Virginia. And I cared a lot about the Redskins back then. When I was a kid, they started making bad decisions then, signing things like Deion Sanders, like Bruce Smith, like outspending everybody in free agency, which is a surefire way to llose every year. And it hasn't changed. Like I graduated high school in the year 2000. It has not changed in the last like 30 years since the Redskins have kind of had this management. So I think the Redskins it's amazing that a team can be so poorly run at the top that it just trickles down for so long.
Last one here for news items. New England, running backs. Do you want anyone that's not named James White?
I mean, reports out of out of New England camp on Damian Harris have been mixed. I kind of thought that he didn't play in the first preseason game because he's been playing well and they didn't want to risk injury to him. Subsequent reports were that he's just not getting reps at camp because he hasn't shown anything. If you think Damian Harris is just going to be buried or a weekly inactive, I mean, there's a chance that Sony Michel could score 15, 20 touchdowns. And we've seen it out of LeGarrette Blount. We've seen Sony Michel score tons and tons of touchdowns down the stretch last year. It's just what they do inside the 5-yard line now is run. So, Sony Michel to me, I think is intriguing in leagues where his draft position has dropped. And you'd want to probably more likely take him in non-PPR. I mean, in touchdown-heavy formats, Sony Michel is for sure a good play.
N'Keal Harry has been missing practice due to a, quote, variety of ailments. That's never a good sign. And in this Patriots offense, where it takes a long time to get up to speed, we've seen a lot of guys with inferior talent stick on the field because they had a good rapport with Tom Brady. That this feels like it really puts him behind the 8 ball. Like, I don't know if you'd want to draft him at this point.
No, I think you can take him off the board if you're in a normal size league. I mean, there's this kid, Jacoby Myers. I don't know if you played preseason on, what was that, Thursday? Like Jacoby Myers was like the must play. And he had 6 catches for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. And like, this kid's like trying to win a starting job. Nobody's heard of him, but he might actually be a better player than N'Keal Harry to start the season. So we'll see on that.
Yeah, like who do you think ends up on the starting roster? Like the week 1 on the field with Tom Brady. Like Edelman's out there. Matt Lacoste is now dealing with an ankle injury. He's probably going to be out for a bit. Ben Watson's still suspended, although I still think he'd probably be the tight end to own if you ever actually wanted to own one. I don't know if you want to or not, but Edelman, Dorsett, I guess, would be out there.
Yeah. You can make a case that it'll be Dorsett, Harry, and Edelman. You could also make a case that it'll be Jacoby Myers, Dorsett. I think definitely Dorsett and Edelman will be out there. But does that Tom Brady doesn't? But Tom Brady went the 20th round last night, Pat. Like 20th round of the draft, Tom Brady went last night. There's not a lot of enthusiasm around this pass game.
Maybe so. Does that mean like we're just absolutely just not paying attention to Philip Dorsett if he's on the field and they have shares to replace in this offense, especially touchdowns? If Dorsett's going to be out there, you might as well draft him.
Yeah, he would be a guy more if I was building some kind of Patriot stack on DraftKings that I would consider. I don't think he's someone you can count on in a week-to-week basis.
All right. I know you're big on preseason, playing preseason fantasy, especially on DraftKings. I mean, of course. But any takeaways from the preseason that just kind of leapt out to you like, hey, this guy's playing a whole lot more? Not an in-depth breakdown, but just something to be like, oh, yeah, that was really strange. And this has adjusted my thinking now.
Yeah, I led the article with Latavius Murray kind of stepping right into the Mark Ingram role. I mean, in leagues where Latavius Murray is going like the 8th or 9th round, it's absurd. Last year, Mark Ingram was going in like the 4th or 5th round, and he was suspended for the first 4 weeks. So, yeah, I think Latavius Murray can give you value on a week-to-week basis if Alvin Kamara is healthy. And if Alvin Kamara goes down, we see now that Sean Payton very clearly going to use Latavius Murray in that Mark Ingram role. Yeah, I thought Dante Pettis being asked to play 17 snaps with the backups was notable. He has not locked down the number one wideout role. We'll see if he does. I thought Chris Godwin playing in the slot where Bruce Arians has previously used guys like Hines Ward, guys like Larry Fitzgerald for big seasons before. I thought that was interesting. I thought Jamison Crowder looked really good. Sam Darnold played 7 snaps and Crowder was in for 7 snaps. Mark Andrews only played on 6 of Lamar Jackson's 16 snaps. I know people like Mark Andrews, but man, the volume is going to be low there. And then you also have a guy who's only going to be on the field. Yeah, he'll be out there for most passing situations, but it's just hard when you're not an every down player at tight end and low volume. Then the last one, man, I mean, Robert Foster, one of my favorite players to roster down the stretch last year. Robert Foster, Australian for sacks. Robert Foster has regressed to like the 5th or 6th wideout for the Bills, played 0 snaps out of 18 with Josh Allen in the preseason opener.
If you're going to take anyone on the Bills, John Brown, I guess.
John Brown, yeah. I mean, he's the one who is. I mean, Josh Allen loves to chuck it deep, and John Brown loves to go deep. It's going to be hard to predict big games, but John Brown will have some big games this year.
Yeah. I mean, I have every draft that I've done so far, I have Josh Allen on my team because he's the greatest quarterback of all time. How are people so fired up for Kyler Murray and how great he's going to be, yet don't want to draft Josh Allen? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, one guy went to Wyoming and the other guy went to Oklahoma. It's not.
Yeah. What one guy is a system quarterback who's a rookie, and the other guy is huge with the best arm in the league.
Josh Allen. Do you realize that Josh Allen didn't make the All Mountain West Conference first team his final year at Wyoming?
Yeah, didn't need to. He just passed on. He's like, I don't want that accolade. That's probably what happened. That's what I'm guessing. He's too busy throwing the ball over the mountains. That's what he can do with that arm. It's running or bomb it. That seems like a pretty good fantasy recipe.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. He's 100% a better fantasy quarterback than real life. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm not talking about in terms of real life. The Bills probably go 0-16 or something like that. But for fantasy, I feel like he should be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I don't know if he'll run as much as he did last year, but maybe. And if he does, yeah, for sure, he'll be a steal. We got him in like the 18th round last night.
Yeah, I mean, he might be their goal line running back.
Yeah.
Have you seen anyone take LaShawn McCoy yet?
Yeah, he goes. He's going to start. I mean, he goes, and Frank Gore goes, and so does Devin Singletary. I mean, anybody who's going to carry the ball goes. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to get excited about the Bills' running game for sure.
Yeah, like you're not taking any Singletary or anything like that just to stash. I guess he's going the highest of the bunch now, isn't he?
God, I don't know. I haven't even looked at the backfield. I've just been ignoring, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, you talked about Dante Pettis. If it's not Dante Pettis in San Francisco, besides Kittle, is there a pass catcher who you would want to have?
Yeah, I still think it'll end up being Dante Pettis. The guys he's being pushed by allegedly are Marquise Goodwin, who I thought that they decided last year that he was just going to be a situational deep threat for them and he can't be an every down receiver. I think they still think that. They might just be trying to like light a fire underneath Dante Pettis. The other guy that could push him is Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel will start anyways, but he's their 2nd round rookie who I think is pretty good. And then if you watch the preseason, man, Jalen Hurd had 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurd's a baller. He's like 6'4", 220, ridiculous athlete, played running back, played quarterback. Jalen Hurd, I think, has a chance to make some noise at some point this year. I'm just not sure when.
What do you see from week 1 DraftKings so far? Like the obvious values, and then we have to like reverse engineer what's going to happen. It's like, wow, remember Rex Burkhead this time last year? It's like, you got to have Rex Burkhead. That turned out well for nobody.
Yeah, I think there's a couple guys on DK that are just like severely mispriced. I have a couple articles up on DraftKings. One is about my first impressions of the salaries, and one is about the stacks, which I think will be the most popular in week 1. I expect Dalvin Cook to be the most owned player in week 1 on DraftKings home game against the Falcons. Everybody knows the narrative and kind of the truth, how bad the Falcons have struggled against the running back position. Then you get Dalvin Cook at 6K, another year removed from his ACL tear, and you could easily project him over 20 touches in this game. I mean, all Mike Zimmer wants to do is run the football. I think he will be really, really popular. I think the Curtis Samuel hype, which I'm sure you've heard, people are saying Curtis Samuel is now the number 1 wideout over DJ Moore in Carolina. Curtis Samuel is only 4,200. DJ Moore is up at 5,500. I think Curtis Samuel is going to be very popular, kind of in the cheap range. And then obviously probably the most owned quarterback is going to be the aforementioned Kyler Murray. I'm sure, as you've heard, the fantasy community is quite excited to play Kyler Murray, and DraftKings made him 5,600 in a home game against the Lions.
Yeah, so but that would worry me from one of two ends. Like, it seems to me like if Kyler Murray is going to have these like bonanza games, you'd want them to get down by a bunch. And I don't know if the Lions are good enough or play fast enough to really push the over of that game. Like, well, you mentioned they're the kings of trying to establish the run. Like, if I just look at Kyler Murray at $5,600, like, I don't see why Josh Allen against the Jets, the things we talked about, if he's still running and bombing, should be good. Mm-hmm. And one of the games that I like as a stackable is that San Fran Tampa Bay game. Like, why not Jimmy Garoppolo? No one's going to own him.
I think Jimmy G's certainly in play, and so is Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's up at 6,600 and Kyler is 5,600. I mean, that's where you're going to start to get the discrepancy in ownership. But I agree with you that this is not the best spot that we'll have all year for Kyler Murray. Not only will everybody be on him, not only does Detroit try to play extremely slow, but this might be one of the biggest offensive line, defensive line mismatches in the league. Like, the defensive line for the Lions is nasty, and the offensive line for the Cardinals is quite poor. I think there are ways that Cliff Kingsbury's offense can mitigate that, and he showed a way to mitigate that at Texas Tech through his scheme. But still, this is not the best spot that we'll find for Kyler Murray. I think that, we'll see where he's at with ownership, but in the end, but he would probably, if I was building just a few teams, Kyler Murray, and I was trying to get first, not just cash, probably Kyler Murray would not be on them for tournaments.
Yeah, well, you talk about, like we talked about, Detroit is a team that wants to play super slow. They try to establish the run and really milk the clock. Their plays per second are they're extremely high, or they're very low, sorry. They take a long time to run plays. Who are the other teams that are super slow in football, at least projected coming into the year?
Yeah, it's interesting. Pat Thorman writes about this for us and studies all the teams on this. Adam Gase has notoriously played extremely slow, and the suspicion is that maybe he did it because his players were so bad in Miami, but I kind of think that's just like the way he wants to play. And that's certainly a concern for the Jets. Dallas has consistently played pretty slow. We'll see what they do with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. I kind of think that they might play a little bit faster. Seattle likes to milk the clock and play slow and run a ton. Like, Seattle's run pass rate was like something straight out of like 1950 last year. I think they'll be forced to throw more and play more up tempo this year, but I think ideally that they would probably want to play pretty slow also.
Yeah, like, additionally, like, who do you think that the fast teams would end up being? I know a lot of people point to the Colts, but a lot of the Colts, like, extreme fast-paced games came really early in the season when they were losing a whole bunch of games. Yeah. They were still quick when they started winning. They were not as fast. It really deteriorated as the season went along, but when you look at a full season of it, it does look like they played faster than the team that they're probably going to be this year, which is why I don't like Nyheim Hines, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, when the Colts were winning last year, they were one of the slowest teams in the league. Once they got a lead, they started playing really slow and trying to just run the clock out. So yeah, I mean, fast teams that run a lot of plays, you have to run a lot of plays. You have to play fast and be good. It's no help to play really fast. You're just going to go 3 and out and punt the ball all the time. So yeah, if Kyler is good, Arizona is going to be among the league leaders in plays run. The Patriots are always among the league leaders in plays run. I think that Tampa has a chance to play much faster under Bruce Arians this year. So yeah, I think we can correlate a lot with how good an offense is to how fast they want to play. But those are 3 that stick out to me.
All right. Finally, win totals. Like I said, I'll have the full team by team division preview, all that stuff. Is there any win totals that just kind of leapt out to you being like, that's really strange. That team's not good, and they're projected for 9 wins. I'm going to smash the under on that one, or the vice versa. Just any preliminary thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Win totals now are a very popular bet among sharps. And so if you don't get to them early, the lines move a ton and really get bent out of whack. I haven't looked since really they've moved a lot. I thought Bills over was a really good bet when it first came out. I think it was around 6.5, maybe. And I think the Bills will have a top 3 defense. And I know we've made fun of Josh Allen on here. If you can just get by, I mean, their defense is going to be nasty this year. They have so much talent at all 3 levels. A bet I actually recently made that I don't know if people want to tail or whatever. I recently bet Eagles to win the NFC East at plus 105. And I'm not sure plus 105 is out there anymore. I think it's probably still okay at even money or maybe even minus 105. But I think the Eagles are just leaps and bounds ahead of certainly the Giants and the Redskins. And I think that they are significantly better than Dallas too, specifically from a depth perspective. So that was a bet that I made recently. I know it's not a win total, but that's at least one that was somewhat recent.
Yeah, I'm seeing them right now at even money. So plus 100 to win the division. That's not really all that off. Any player props that you've seen that just like got to smash those?
Oh boy. Yeah. I did a podcast with Sean Corner on the Edge, which you guys can just find, just Google iTunes, the Edge. I think it was episode 271 with Corner. And we talked all about the player props that are up on DK Sportsbook right now. I think my favorite one was Juju under 1,400 yards or so, maybe 1,405 yards. No question, Juju's going to have a great season. You're asking a lot. Like on all player props, what big thing that me and Sean talked about is on the season-long player props, you always want to be leaning under. Like it's very rare I would take an over because a lot of times the injury equity, season derailment, injury suspension, whatever's going to happen is not built into the line. So even if a median projection for Juju Smith-Schuster is like 1,400 yards, if the line is 1,400, it's still an under bet because of the injury expectation and all that. So there's certainly some bloated lines in there. You know, the public loves to bet overs and have fun. And, everybody's going to go nuts this year. In reality, under is usually the play. And I know that's not that fun, but we're out here to make money, Pat.
Yeah, well, it's tough, though, like to tie up your money, especially at a player prop where you're capped a lot of the time on what you can bet to say, hey, if you're capped at, let's say, $100, you can place a $100 bet on a player prop. Now I have to wait 17 weeks to get paid out on that $100. Like, it doesn't even seem worth it.
You're right. And so, I've done this not seriously, but somewhat serious in the past. And basically you just have to say, I'm going to build a portfolio of futures and player props and season long props. And there's going to be X amount for the season. And I'm putting this aside and it's going to be my portfolio. And that's going to be it. It's not, you're right. It's not a great experience for the user who's just trying to have fun to tie up $100 for the season and try to get back like 95 or whatever.
Yeah. Like if you think the Bills defense is going to be that good, is there any value on them to win the AFC East at 10-1? Yeah.
I think, I believe it might have even opened 12-1. You might have been able to get at some point. The Patriots dynasty will collapse. I know that everybody's been saying it for the last like 5 years. At some point, they're actually going to be right. I don't know if it'll be this year, but yeah, I mean, the Bills are a threat. I think the Jets are okay. I don't know, man. I hate saying this because doubting the Patriots is just like a recipe to look like a fool.
All right. Adam Levitan, DK Live, establishtheRun.com. What else you got to pimp? That it?
I have nothing to pimp, man. It's always an honor to be here. And yeah, thank you for having me. It's my second most important podcast of the week behind the Schefter pod.
Well, that's very nice. And behind all of yours, of course. So you're placing mine above yours. I like to hear that.
Yes, of course.
All right.
I need the golf snob crowd out there. You guys are out there spending your $200 on golf rounds every weekend. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of people that we need, not the football grinders.
That is true. The golf crowd are consumers, and they are the best fans you could ever have, and the best consumers of your product you could ever have. Because let's keep coming. People suck at golf for years, and they keep pumping money into it. So God knows if you can turn to like even a bit of a profit on daily fantasy, all of a sudden like, oh, you're millions. You take them, and I'll figure out the rest from there. Anyway, Adam Levitan, follow him on Twitter at Adam Levitan. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I told you the ways that you can get into the draw, so just rewind to the beginning if you missed it for some reason. You somehow tuned into an on-demand internet show like halfway through, which doesn't even seem possible. But hey, if you did, then here we are. My rankings are up on dkplaybook.com, and I have them updated as of Tuesday. Maybe I'll hit it Wednesday morning, too, when the show comes out. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!